You must understand something most people will never dare admit to themselves, let alone to another. There exists a soul, quiet in the corner of every room, one that listens more than it speaks, that observes more than it is seen. That soul is not shy, it is profound, not silent out of fear, but because the noise of the world feels like a betrayal of its inner sanctum. You call them introverts, as if it were a category on a checklist. But I tell you, these are the keepers of the inner flame, the guardians of mystery. They are the threshold walkers between the external world and the interior realm, where true meaning lives and breathes. And why is it that they recoil from attention? Not because they fear the spotlight, but because it blinds them. The artificial glare forces them to abandon the depths of the subconscious, the womb of their true power, to ask an introverted soul. To live in the world of surface is to ask a diver to breathe in the desert. They do not want your eyes. They want your recognition, not of the persona, but of the soul beneath it. They want you to see what even they have struggled to bring into language. We are living in a time where noise is mistaken for depth, and presence is confused with performance. But the introverted soul is not interested in performing. It is interested in remembering the primordial wound, the sacred pattern, the ancient rhythm that the ego has long forgotten. Do you see? These beings are not antisocial. They are archivists of the numinous. They carry the sacred scrolls of the unconscious, and each time they are forced to smile when they feel sorrow, or small talk when they wish to soul talk. Their spirit contracts. Their being retreats deeper into the cave, deeper into the labyrinth where only archetypes speak. When I studied the dreams of introverts, I saw recurring images, caves, deep oceans, libraries, dark woods, staircase descending forever. These are not symptoms of neurosis. They are messages, sacred invitations. And society has trained us to silence these messages because they are not efficient, they do not scale, they do not impress. But let me ask you, when did understanding the soul become optional? You see, what we call introversion is often the outer expression of a deep interior commitment to integrity. It is not a lack of desire for connection, it is a refusal to betray one's essence in exchange for belonging. The introverted soul does not reject people, it rejects the masks they demand it wear. In the mythology of every civilization, there is the hermit, the sage, the oracle. These are not eccentric loners, they are symbols. The hermit walks away not to escape, but to see clearly. The sage speaks less, not because he lacks wisdom, but because words are too small to carry the weight of what he has seen. And the oracle does not shout, she whispers in symbols. For those willing to hear beyond the ear. And so, when you meet an introverted soul, do not speak first. Watch, listen, let your presence be still enough for them to emerge. For they are like deer in the clearing, any sudden movement, and they vanish back into the thickets of the soul. Now you must understand something very important. The world punishes the introverted archetype, not because it is dangerous, but because it is ungovernable. You cannot control what is inwardly free. You cannot manipulate one who draws life from the roots of being rather than the applause of others. That is the true fear society has of the introvert. They are loyal to the inner law, not the outer rules. And this loyalty is terrifying to a world built on masks, roles, and empty rituals. When I worked with patients, I observed that those who identified most strongly with introversion often carried deep ancestral burdens. They were the dreamers of dreams the tribe had forgotten. They carried memories, not their own echoes of grandmothers who never spoke their truth, of ancestors who felt too much, who saw too much, and so silenced themselves into extinction. These modern introverts often carry this weight in their nervous systems, in their reluctance to speak, in their trembling before crowds, not out of fear, but because to speak would be to resurrect voices long buried. And such resurrection is a sacred act. It must not be done lightly. The psyche of the introvert is often symbolized by water deep, still, reflective, and mysterious. And water, as you know, gives life, but it also demands reverence. You do not shout across a still lake. You kneel beside it. You whisper. You wait. So too must we approach these inner souls. If you demand they speak up, be confident, put themselves out there, you have already misunderstood the nature of their sacred calling. They are not here to shout. They are here to remind us of silence. They are not here to compete. They are here to realign us with meaning. They are not here to impress. They are here to integrate. The world of the extrovert is the world of form, the known, the visible, the measurable. But the world of the introvert is the world of formlessness, the archetypal, the imaginal, the felt but unseen. They are the cartographers of the unconscious, and their maps are drawn in symbols, not syllables. What happens when we ignore these souls? We become a society obsessed with content, but devoid of context. We speak, but say nothing. We gather, but do not commune. We market, but do not meet. And the introvert, seeing this spectacle, steps back not out of rejection, but because the noise is too loud to hear the soul. And so I say again, introverts do not want attention. Attention is too crude, too scattered. What they crave is attunement, the sacred recognition that another being sees, not their performance, but their essence. This is what they have always longed for. This is what they mourned. When, as children, they were told they were too quiet, too sensitive, too strange. They were not too much. They were tuning into a station. The adults had long forgotten how to hear. And now, let us enter deeper. Let us speak of the shadow. For many introverted souls, the shadow is not some monstrous other. It is the part of themselves that learn to perform just to survive. The smiling mask, the forced conversation, the feigned excitement. This is the true shadow of the introvert, the part of them that plays the game even though it starves their soul. And it is here the war begins not with the world, but within the self. They begin to feel split between the self that conforms to the demands of the outer world and the self that longs to return to the temple of the inner world. One says, be normal. The other says, be real. One says, make friends. The other says, make meaning. And if this war is not reconciled, the introvert becomes weary, not because they are weak, but because they are torn between loyalty to the soul and duty to the social. And so I invite you, if you are one of these beings, stop fighting yourself. Your soul was never meant to be extroverted. It was meant to be understood. You are not broken. You are encoded differently. Your silence is not absence. It is presence in a deeper realm. Your solitude is not loneliness. It is communion with something sacred. And your sensitivity is not a flaw. It is a compass. Let them misunderstand you. Let them call you distant, shy, withdrawn. For you are not here to entertain them. You are here to remember yourself. You see, the dream life of the introverted soul is not mere imagination, it is revelation. In my work with the unconscious, I found that introverts dream more vividly, more symbolically, and more prophetically than most. Their dreams are not distractions. They are directions. While the outer world shouts for them to move faster, do more, be seen, the dream whispers go deeper, feel more, be still. I recall the dream of a woman who described a narrow staircase descending into the belly of a mountain. She carried a lantern and descended each step slowly, with trepidation. At the base of the staircase, she found an ancient room filled with tapestries of forgotten languages. She said, I knew I was home, but I didn't know how to read it yet. And I told her, this is your soul's truth. You are not lost, you are returning, but your language is symbolic, not literal. And it will take time to remember what you already know. That is the introvert's journey, to remember the original language of the soul. That language is not made of sentences. It is made of symbols, images, emotions, silences. You do not learn it through logic. You feel your way back to it. And so it is no surprise that many introverts are drawn to the mystical, the symbolic, the archetypal. They are not running from reality. They are seeking a deeper one. They are not passive. They are attuned. They are not cold. They are on fire in a way the world cannot see. But the danger is this: if they are not understood, they may turn that fire against themselves. This is the silent tragedy of the introverted soul. In a society of extroverted demands, they begin to believe that something is wrong with them. They begin to believe that their nature is a liability, that their need for solitude is selfish, that their love of depth is antisocial. And once that belief takes root, a fracture forms in the psyche. The self splits into two: the true self, which seeks meaning, and the adapted self, which seeks approval. And this fracture becomes a wound, not just emotional, but existential. And the wound says, you must betray yourself to belong. And if this continues long enough, the soul becomes numb, not because it lacks feeling, But because feeling has become too dangerous, this, my friend, is how the introvert becomes lost, not in others, but in the false self they were forced to create. But all is not lost. For the psyche, like nature, always seeks restoration, and if even a sliver of authenticity remains, the soul will send messages, small ones at first, a sudden longing for silence, a tear during a song, a shiver of recognition when reading a poem. These are not accidents. They are soul signals. Your being is trying to reclaim itself. And so I say to you, if you feel misunderstood, it is not because you are unclear, it is because you are speaking a language the world forgot how to hear. But there are still those who speak this language, the dreamers, the poets, the mystics, the ones who cry without knowing why. You are not alone. You are among kin. You must learn to trust your inner rhythm again. You must learn to walk slowly in a world that sprints. You must learn to say no, not from fear, but from wisdom. You must learn to guard your energy, not because others are bad, but because your light is delicate. And you must learn to stop apologizing for your design. There is no shame in needing solitude. It is in solitude that the soul clarifies. There is no weakness in feeling deeply. It is in feeling that the truth reveals itself. There is no failure in being different. Difference is the signature of destiny. I have seen many introverts try to mold themselves into extroverted forms. They go to social events like soldiers into battle. They make small talk as if it were sacred ritual. They perform, they please, and afterward they collapse, not just physically, but spiritually. And they ask me, what is wrong with me? And I say, nothing. What's wrong is the world's assumption that we must all thrive in the same way. You are never meant to bloom in the same sun. You are a moonflower, quiet, rare, and best seen at night. So what then is the healing path? First, the introvert must reclaim the right to solitude, not as escape, but as sacrament. Solitude is not where they go to hide. It is where they go to remember. The soul does not shout in crowds. It sings in stillness. Second, they must unlearn the shame of their sensitivity. Sensitivity is the language of the soul's barometer. It tells you what aligns and what wounds. It tells you who drains and who restores. To be sensitive is to be exquisitely alive. Third, they must mourn the false self, the persona they crafted just to fit in, for no integration is possible without grief. You must say goodbye to who you thought you had to be. Only then can you return to who you actually are. And finally, they must begin the descent not outward into the world of expectations, but inward into the world of archetypes. This descent is not glamorous. It is not comfortable. It is not Instagrammable, but it is real. And it begins when you dare to feel what you've numbed, to listen to what you've silenced, to speak what you've swallowed. And in that descent, you will meet the parts of you. You once abandoned the child who was told to be quieter, the dreamer who was told to grow up. The seer who was told to stop imagining, and you will not judge them, you will hold them, and slowly your fragments will begin to remember. They are not broken, they are just waiting for the whole to return. I must tell you this too. There is gold in your quiet, not the gold of applause, but the gold of alchemy, the ability to transmute pain into wisdom, aloneness into insight, and silence into signal. This is the true power of the introvert. Not to compete in the outer world, but to bring back truth from the inner one. The world needs that truth now more than ever, because the world is burning with noise, and the introvert holds the water of reflection, because the world is suffocating on speed, and the introvert holds the breath of pause, because the world is addicted to spectacle, and the introvert holds the sanctuary of meaning. You are not here to be louder. You are here to be deeper. You must realize that introverts are not only living for themselves, though their path appears solitary, they are engaged in a work of great collective consequence. Because what is not faced in society must be faced in the individual, and often it is the introvert who is chosen to carry this unseen burden, not as punishment, but as a sacred assignment. The world projects its disowned soul onto the introvert. It labels them odd, distant, enigmatic, when in truth they are mirrors reflecting the collective's forgotten truths. They feel what others avoid. They intuit what others suppress. They mourn what others distract themselves from. And in this way, they are not weak. They are priests of the unseen. I have seen this in my patients, quiet ones who came not with loud crises, but with subtle longings. A young man who could not bear loud rooms because his nervous system was tuned like a harp. A woman who cried for no reason, yet her dreams were filled with images of ancient grief. They thought they were broken. But I told them, you are attuned to a truth that others have buried. You are dreaming on behalf of humanity. Your pain is not private. It is prophetic. Do you understand now? The introverted soul becomes a vessel for the unconscious of the tribe. And unless they know this, they will drown in emotions not their own. They will absorb every tension, every dissonance, every unspoken truth in the atmosphere, thinking it is theirs. When it is not, they become psychic sponges, saturated with what the world refuses to process. This is why so many introverts retreat, not because they dislike people, but because they carry too much of them. Every glance, every tone, every fragmented energy leaves a psychic imprint. And without boundaries, the introvert becomes not a self, but a container for other people's shadows. Ah, the shadow again. Let us speak deeper now. When the introvert absorbs others unconsciously, they risk identifying with what is not theirs. The depressed moods, the irrational shame, the inexplicable guilt, these may not originate within them, yet they carry them like ancestral relics. Why? Because they are the soul's empathic vessels, archetypally connected to the figure of the seer, the watcher, the dream bearer. And so the healing for the introvert does not lie in isolation alone, it lies in discernment. The sacred question is this mind must become their daily ritual. When they feel drained, they must ask, whose pain am I carrying? When they feel afraid, they must inquire, whose voice am I obeying? When they feel unworthy, they must wonder, whose story am I living? For without this discernment, the introvert becomes a ghost in their own life, haunted not by spirits, but by projections. Let me explain something. The extroverted world does not teach silence, is not emptiness. It is fullness without chaos. The introvert's silence is not absence, it is a sacred container where the unconscious begins to speak. And what it says is not always easy, but it is always true. In ancient times, cultures understood this. They honored the quiet ones as oracles, shamans, scribes of the sacred. They were trained to enter the dream time, to walk between worlds, to feel the soul of a forest or the breath of a dying star. But now, we give them pills and say, be normal. We diagnose what we do not understand. We pathologize what we have forgotten how to revere. And so I say to every introverted soul listening now, you are not too sensitive. You are finely tuned. You are not too quiet. You are deeply resonant. You are not too strange. You are archetypally aligned with the wisdom figures of every sacred tradition. You are the inner child who refused to betray their knowing. You are the mystic whose silence is louder than thunder. You are the oracle who speaks in symbols because language is too small, and the world needs you to remember not to become louder, but to become clearer, not to fit in, but to stand as a lighthouse, not to explain yourself, but to embody yourself. This embodiment is not easy. It requires death, the death of the false self. The socially acceptable mask, it requires initiation, the descent into your personal underworld, where your forgotten parts wait to be retrieved. It requires trust, the ability to walk alone in the forest of the soul until your footsteps. Remember the rhythm of truth. But this is what you were born for. Do not let the world shame you out of your nature. The caterpillar was never meant to race the rabbit. The seed was never meant to shout like the wind. The moon was never meant to compete with the sun. Each has its sacred place, and yours, dear one, is in between the threshold, the silent knowing, the place where souls remember. Let us go even deeper now. There is a moment, often in the life of an introvert, where they feel they are disappearing. It comes during long periods of pretending, of trying to adapt. They laugh when they want to cry. They attend when they want to retreat. They speak when they want to reflect. And slowly their inner flame dims, not extinguished, but hidden beneath layers of performance. And this dimming is the soul's cry. Come back to me. It is not depression, it is homesickness for the self. And the self, in the language of depth psychology, is not your personality. It is your archetypal wholeness. It is the divine pattern within you. It is the place where your inner sage inner child, inner warrior, and inner mystic unite, and the introvert, more than most, is designed to return to that center, not by doing more, but by unbecoming what they never were. You do not need to build a self, you need to remember it. And when you do, when you return to that sacred center, you become luminous, not loud, but glowing. People may not know what changed, but they will feel it. You will walk into a room and shift the atmosphere not by charisma, but by coherence. Your presence will be a sanctuary. And those who are ready will come to you not for entertainment, but for healing. They will say, I don't know why, but I feel safe around you. They will say, you help me hear my own truth. They will say, your silence speaks louder than anyone's words. And you will nod, you will smile. And inside, how your soul will whisper, I remember who I am. When the introvert returns to their sacred center, something extraordinary begins to occur, not just within them, but in the collective field around them. They become what I have long called a carrier of numinous energy, numinous, not in the sense of religiosity, but in the deeper sense of a living, felt presence of meaning. And those who come near them sense it not always consciously, but somatically, archetypally, a stirring in the body, a softening in the mind, a sudden longing for what is real. You see, when the introvert fully inhabits their inner world, not in escape, but in authenticity, they become medicine for the world's neurosis. For every culture eventually forgets its soul. It replaces myth with mechanism, wisdom with information, initiation with achievement. But the introvert, if they stay loyal to the whisper within, becomes a reminder of what we have lost: reverence, depth, pause. And the beautiful paradox is this: the more the introvert aligns with their own truth, the more visible they become, not in spectacle, but in presence, not in noise, but in resonance. They do not seek attention, but attention seeks them not to extract, but to remember. I have seen it many times, the quiet one at the edge of the gathering, whose words come slowly, whose eyes do not dart around, but dwell deeply. And when they speak, the room quiets, not out of command, but out of recognition. Something sacred is being transmitted, not from ego, but from essence. This is the power of the integrated introvert, and yet this journey is not complete without the final task, the offering. Every true individuation demands not only self-realization, but participation. The introvert does not merely return to the self for their own sake. They return so that they might offer the gold they have gathered in the dark to those still lost in the light. It does not mean they must teach or lead or speak publicly. No, it means they must allow their being to become a beacon. Their silence becomes a balm. Their gaze becomes a mirror. Their very breath carries coherence into incoherent spaces. And for some, it means becoming guides, not loud ones, not gurus, but soul companions listeners, space holders, the kind who walk beside, not ahead, the kind who do not fix, but feel, who do not push, but invite, who do not preach, but embody. I once said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But for the introvert, this privilege often feels like a risk, because to become who they are means stepping out of the shadows, not to be seen, but to see, to carry the gaze of truth into places that fear reflection. And so I leave you with this: do not confuse your depth for deficiency. Do not mistake your sacred slowness for stagnation. Do not shrink your sensitivity to soothe those who have numbed theirs. You are not here to be normal. You are here to be whole. You are not here to adapt to dysfunction. You are here to reintroduce the world to its soul. You are not here to fill space. You are here to create sanctuary. And if you feel alone on this path, you know this, you are not isolated, you are rare. And the rare is always lonely, until it is ready to be revealed. So trust the quiet call, honor the inner pull. Let yourself descend, not in defeat, but in devotion, because at the bottom of that descent, you will find what the world has forgotten, your true name. And when you rise, you will rise not as someone who needs to be understood, but as one who understands. And that, dear one, is what changes the world. Not attention, but understanding, not the nuance, but meaning, not performance, but presence. You are not here to entertain the surface. You are here to restore the depths. And we are waiting for you, for your voice, for your vision, for the sacred silence only you can hold. Come forth, not louder, but truer. The world does not need another performer. It needs you, whole, unmasked, unshaken, still,